Uh, we thank you very much for joining this webinar this afternoon. Uh, we actually hope that it's going to uh, be one of those impactful sessions that we'll be having. So the webinar is starting now. To take opening prayer, this one will be taken by all participants. Okay, the panelists can unmute themselves so that we take this together. And to go. O God of
O God of creation, direct our noble cause, our leaders right, help our youth the truth to know, in love and honesty to grow, and living just and true. Great lofty heights ascend to build a nation where peace and justice reign. Amen.
Yeah. Amen. Thank you very much for the prayer. We pray that God will answer this prayer for Nigeria. Yeah. We go directly to the welcome address by the chairman. This is not an event that we read a long speech, but just need to welcome all of us to this event and to actually tell us a few things about uh, this event. Yeah. Why Techies Hangout initiative? We look at it that one of the ways to encourage people or professionals to join their computer society is to create value so that they can see the essence of joining. And one of the ways that we want to create value is to educate people, to educate ourselves as professionals, and to educate the public, and to actually bring ourselves as professionals together to interact. So that's what bring about the Techies Hangout initiative. And we coined this one as Techies Hangout is an event to be virtual and to be physical, which we had as the maiden edition. This is a virtual version of it, though we are forced to it by the COVID-19 pandemic. And we hope to have TV series of it and the radio and magazines and all sorts like that. And we want a situation whereby professionals will come together and discuss trending issues, things that are arising or things that we prospect that will arise, and find a solution, a way to actually bring our ideas together to collaborate and bring about solutions to national problems, national issues, national security, the economy, and also. So we are looking at a way to create value to even our society and the citizenry. So that's the reason why we come up with this Turkish hangout, and that is what it is all about. Yeah, the first edition was the physical fashion that we have, and the title of that one was Robot versus Human, who gets the next job. We received a lot of feedback that, oh, it was educating. Even we identified that some professionals, they're saying, that, oh, the robot is going to take over the jobs now. So the fear was so there, but this one, that one was able to calm the fears in most of us by the experts that discussed that time that we should not be afraid. What we just need to look at is just to upgrade ourselves so that we can meet the future that is coming. Yeah, so the second edition, we're supposed to have six of it this year, but because of the pandemic, it's altered it before without saying, oh, we can't just be looking at Kimbo. So that's the reason why we now say, oh, let us move it to virtual platform. which bring about this second edition that we are having today. And we are addressing the data access, identity and access management in developing economy, which Nigeria is one of it. I know we don't know when Nigeria is going to become a developed nation. When we were in secondary school, primary school, we are hearing that Nigeria is a developing nation. We are still in it till now. We hope that will be developed one day. Yeah. So I want to enjoy all of us because this session is not for the professional alone, the IT professional alone. It's still for the public. We can let us make it participatory after the panelists have given their own thoughts. We can ask questions so that we get answers. Then those professionals that are not in the fold of NCS, we're using this opportunity to tell you that join us, come into the fold. It is when you are there, you know what we are doing, and you can help what we are doing. Thank you very much on this. Yeah. So quickly, we go to the topic discussion because we don't see the president of NCS is not here yet, and the deputy president also. So we just quickly go into the discussion proper. So now I'll be handing over to Mercy Philip Okoronko, who is going to moderate the discussion. So thank you very much.
Thank you, our chair, NCS Abuja. And let me say welcome to our special guests for those programs who are panelists, highly revered ladies and gentlemen, and in the profession, in the IT profession. We are really grateful that you have given us this important time out of your busy schedule. We can see our own Mr. Hakim has already given us the green light that he's going to attend some other meeting, and I think we'll try to arrange it so that we would have heard his thoughts before he leaves. All right, Chairman has given us the background. We can't run from Techie. We can't run from Techie. Techie is where to go, and we need to see how to continue the sensitization and application at the same time. People need to be sensitized so that they can also be free to allow technology to drive processes so that we can also be at par with others of our peer as nations, as sectors, whether in transport sector, financial sector, every sector of the economy can leverage technology to gain some speed and also stay at the same platform with the other nations of the world. All right, thank you. Our participants, like Chairman have said, we are going to allow our presenters take a shot at the topic, which we are all aware, identity and access management in developing economy. Nigeria is one of the developing economy. We slip into recession now and return the next day, the next time, and all of that. How can we get to that point of not allowing our economy be nosediving and in and out? No thanks to COVID. For the last time, for the current one, they said we are also slipping into another recession because of COVID. But we must see what identity and access management, which is how to get data, to leverage data to do a lot of things in the nation. I will not take it from our well prepared and picked resource persons. They are going to talk to us more about this. So keep the questions. If you want to post it online, you can type and post so that I don't forget. At the right time, we are going to get that questions that you post. Need of raising hand, allow them. I think we're going to do up to 7 minutes per presenter so that we we now get our questions. Please get your paper. If you can't type online, get your paper and please note what queries you want to give to them. Their names are there. It was on screen. I will not want to take time to labor us with that introduction. They will keep becoming on screen. You know, some persons are represented, and chairman has earlier mentioned those who are representing one person or the other. So thank you. That is the screen again. Mrs. Uche Chibo, Deputy General Manager, Senior Special Assistant to the DG, representing Engineer Aliyu. Yes, just scroll it on so that we see all of them. Mr. Remy Afong I can see his face, President Cybersecurity Expert Association of Nigeria. He's already in the program. That is Dr. Mrs. Wumi Hassan, our own senior mommy, a fellow of Nigerian Computer Society, CEO High Tech Center for Nigerian Women and Youth. Is a face we know in the computer society environment. Our big uncle Abdul Hakim, the Ajijola of cybersecurity, Chairman African Union Cybersecurity Expert Group. Our uncle keeps sponsoring Abuja NCS meeting, and we thank him for such wonderful support he has been giving the chapter here in Abuja. Thank you, Uncle Hakim, for coming again. Thank you very much, sir. Just scroll it. Fine. So, ladies and gentlemen, they are here online, and because Uncle Hakim has asked us for a favor, we are going to start shooting from him. He's going to take the first shot before the others, so that because he has told us of another engagement, we must drink from his well before he leaves this platform. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's look at 7 minutes per presenter for now, and like so that we can have time to discuss. Just introduce from your perspective, then we'll run for the four available panelists for now. Then we'll look at our questions and see how much we are going to gain from it. So 7 minutes, we are going to start from Uncle Ajijola, who is going to do this. Even if he leaves, I guess there are other people that can take questions from his perspective. So, ladies and gentlemen, join me as we welcome Alhaji Abdul Hakim Ajijola, Chair, African Union Cybersecurity Expert Group. He will be coming on screen now to talk to us about the topic, access and access management, identity and access management in developing economy. An example of such economy is like ours, Nigeria. So let's welcome Uncle Hakim. Thank you very much.
Philip, may I, with due respect, please, let Uche from NIMSI go first, because NIMSI, as the institutional custodian of identity management, I think it is better for them to go first and set the overall tone and direction. So I would plead with you, please let us give due respect to the institution, if you don't mind. I can go subsequently, but let's let the institution go first.
Because of the... All right, sir. Because I didn't know when you want to leave us, so that is why we wanted to hear from you before you leave us. Okay, Auntie Uche, you've had our uncle, and let's allow the representative from our institution, the government agency in charge of identity and access management, for her to begin this session, as an authority in identity and access management in the country. So let's return to Madam Uche Chibo. She will come first. Then after that, we will know the next person. All right, thank you very much. Mrs. Uche, Auntie, you're welcome. And we are turning back the script to you. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much for having me here. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you, Mr. Ajijola, for allowing us to go first. I'm very happy, honored, and privileged to be part of this second edition of the Techies Hangout. As earlier mentioned by the chairman, I'm representing the Director General and CEO of National Identity Management Commission, Engineer Aliyu Aziz. Okay, we'll just start so that we can kick it off. I'll be talking on identity management. I'll start my presentation on my speech. First of all, anchoring why identity matters for development, because it's very important that we know why it matters before we go into the detailed discussion. If you look at the Nigerian population, we have, it's estimated that we are almost about 200 million people in Nigeria. And with the records that we currently have now in the database, the National Identity Database, we've registered about 42.3 so far as at today. So it goes to show that over 100 million Nigerians have no official identity. And this figure also includes typically the most vulnerable people, the poorest people, the marginalized groups, women and girls, less educated people, migrants or refugees, stateless person, and in the case of Nigeria, even the IDPs, internally displaced persons, and also people with disabilities, people living in rural and remote areas. And if you look at it again, you can see that from studies that have been done and information that are available, about 61% of the people live below the poverty line. And then almost over 22% of our labor force involve the unemployed youth. And we have about 6% of our population that are above 60 years of age. So all of these factors that I'm just listing out is just trying to paint the picture that we really need a management system that will help us to manage all of these issues and challenges that are there. We need an inclusive and trusted ID system that can help us to achieve certain goals. For example, our people need to be empowered, because when people have identity, they have a means to be able to exert their basic rights. They have a means to be able to claim certain entitlements that are due to them. They have a means to be able to access basic government services that are out there. So identity, inclusive and a trusted identity system will help people and enhance their rights to all these services, and even for them to participate both in the formal economy, the economy that we are currently talking about. We need an inclusive and trusted ID system for us to strengthen our transparency, efficiency, effectiveness in terms of governance and service delivery. So identity is very key. We also need identity so that we can also support the private sector agencies that are into the developmental things that are ongoing, and also providing other services to the general public. We need identity to also grow the digital economy. If you look at the economic recovery and growth plan of Nigeria, you can see that underpinning all the things that have been listed out, investing in people, educating people, growing the economy and all of that, underpinning it is unique identification. If you don't know who is who, how are you going to know the people that you're actually planning for? How are you going to know the people that you actually have to serve or provide services for? So it's very, very key. Also, for our regional and global integration, identity is key, where even if in terms of migration and immigration and all of that, identity is what we need to be able to solve all of the challenges that are abound in those places. And also, not lastly, we need identity to generate, the identity management system to generate reliable data and continuous statistics, so that we can also be measuring our progress and then helping our policymakers to have right information to make decisions. So all of this I'm trying to anchor is just to stress that our identity is really, really, really important. And we need identity in Nigeria. A good ID system, if we successfully implement all that government has envisioned, We also help with access to finances. We all know that one of the critical things for people to even open bank account, to be financially included, has to do with unique ID for the KYC. There are a lot of other things that people ask for, but if we can give them this basic ID, it will just help us to solve those issues about the KYC. There's also issue of gender equality, even from our enrollment point of view. A lot of the women are not registered, men. But if we have identity, we'll be able to empower these women in so many different ways, especially access to basic health and education services, including even child protection, things that has to do with underage labor and all of that. We need identity. We need to improve our access and equality and the quality of the social protection and social welfare packages that we have in our country. Overall, ID is good for the overall governance of our nation. Even for security, identity will help to enhance the work of the law enforcement agencies. So in all of this, we can see that we really have a gap. If we have over 200 million people and more than 100 million lack official or legal, a gap. And with the way that the Nigerian growth rate is estimated that we grow at 7 million every year, then there's a need for us to quickly accelerate this identity development in Nigeria so that we make sure that we have a central repository that we can have a single source of truth for people being identified, for them to now have access to all of the things that I have listed right here. If we, NIMSI as an organization was set up in 2007 to be able to help the government or the nation to deliver this identity program. So far, we have commenced enrollment and registration. Like I said earlier, we have over 42.3 million people that have been registered, but then we can see that there's so much work for us to do. We still have a long way to go in terms of capturing the entire population. And at the rate which we are going, it's going to take us quite a long time to capture the entire population. And we're not only capturing those who are physically present in Nigeria, we are also to capture the Nigerians that are also living in diaspora. So based on the challenges that are currently before NIMSI in 2018 through the Federal Executive Council, got an approval for a new strategic roadmap that will enable us within a very short period of time and then at a faster rate, at a cost-effective manner, to be able to have this identity database populated. This strategic roadmap is what we are currently using to accelerate identity development in Nigeria. Basically, what the strategic roadmap is talking about is that we should employ or deploy what we call an ecosystem approach, where is a federal government-led initiative for us to collect this biometric data and the biographic data nationwide in one go. And it should be a coordinated effort so that we can avoid duplicating this data collection at high cost at different areas. We should also leverage the facilities, the capabilities of most of the public and private sector agencies in Nigeria to do this identity data capture. NIMSI will sit back as the regulator of the identity sector and facilitate the collecting the identity data and also storing the identity data and enabling access for authentication of the identity that has been collected. The partners that will work with us, both the public and private sector agencies, will be paid for successful enrollment that generates a need for which they have captured. So this is basically just a recap of the strategic roadmap. And within that roadmap, we've had a lot of rethink and a lot of redesign of what we are currently doing. We're concentrating on offering the digital ID, which is a national identification number. We're saying it should just be digital for now. That should be our focus. And then we should also make sure it's using biometrics. We should collect very minimalist information. So we've also streamlined the data fields that we're collecting to about 10 data fields. It should also be foundational, meaning that it should be right across agencies, across the nation for service provision. And then it should also be linked with the civil registration and vital statistics system. That's the system that is in charge of our birth and death registration. And then we should also build it with a lot of legal, technical, security, cyber security safeguards. I'm very happy that a lot of our cyber security people are here, because if you are trying to bring in multiple partners or have so many partners participate in this process, you need to make sure that there's a minimum cybersecurity measure that is in place that people have to comply with. We know we will not take them the whole hog of the entire cybersecurity spectrum and sphere, but at least we should be able to identify that minimal measure that they should comply and adhere to for us to achieve all of this. So I've just given a recap. I don't know if I still have time to continue. If I still have time, I'll also continue. So, but the principles that we are looking for in terms of the identification for development are in three categories. We're looking at the principles of inclusion. We're trying to build a universal system that will have universal coverage. We want to remove every barriers that are out there for people assessing or using identity. So we're adopting the principles of inclusion in our identity development. We are also looking at the principles of the design. One of the basic things that we've considered and adopted is that it should be a very robust system that we are implementing. It should be secure, and we should have accurate identity information within the system. The platform should also allow for interoperability and information and verification. We should use open standards and avoid what we call vendor locking. We should be technology neutral in terms of our design implementation. And we need to also protect user privacy, which is very key, and control even access to the system through our system design. So we're talking about security by design, data protection and privacy by design. It should not be something that we'll have finished implementing and then we come back to start talking about security and data protection. Those are very key factors that we are considering in this. And then we should also implement a system that is going to be sustainable over a period of time. So that's what we have under the design principle. And lastly, the principle of governance. We have to safeguard this data that we are collecting. NIMC is not the owner of the data. NIMC is just sitting in to, hold that data in trust for the people that own the data. So we need to safeguard the data that we are providing. We need a lot of security. We need a lot of user rights through legal and regulatory frameworks. I'm very happy to also announce here in this forum that there is already a data protection bill that has been drafted, of which we recently had a stakeholders validation conference, and they are currently in a retreat trying to fine-tune the document for presentation to the president and then onward submission to the National Assembly. So we're trying to make sure that we have that national data protection bill in place. Then we also, in terms of the principles of are also saying there should be clear institutional mandates so that we can actually hold people accountable to what they're supposed to be delivering. So every institution that is a stakeholder within the identity sector will have a clear-cut role and responsibility of what they are serving and providing. And then we also need to enforce our legal and regulatory frameworks through independent oversight and adjudication of grievances. I know the cybersecurity draft that is there is also asking for that independence, because we don't want to, you don't want a government agency that is in charge of identity to also be the one that is trying to enforce some of this legal framework. So there should be an independent oversight. These are some of the principles that are already being considered in terms of implementation. And in terms of the targets that we have set for an agency.
All right,
Oh, I
sir.
thought my.
Actually, I think the moderator gave you the enough time
Oh,
because
okay.
you are the major.
So I should stop or I should continue?
Yes, maybe just round off in 1 minute. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, I'll round up in 1 minute. Okay, what we NIMSI is actually, what we are implementing is that NIMSI is sitting back as the foundational ID system and answering the question, who are you? And then all the other identity stakeholders of government will sit as the functional ID system, then answering the question, if this is who you are you eligible to benefit from a scheme or to access a service or to partake in a transaction? So that's how the identity categorization has been done, that there are the foundational ID system, which is National Identity Management System, and NPOPC that handles the birth and death registers, plus the vital statistics. Then there are the functional ID agencies that are there who are specifically providing specific statutory services and functions to the general public. So all in all, just to round up, our implementation target when it comes to ID is just to make sure that we provide seamless digital ID for all, to extend our coverage nationwide, because as we are now, we don't have enough coverage, to harmonize all these functional identities that are out there to the unique ID NIN, and then for us to scale up our infrastructure so that we can have optimal efficiency and effectiveness in the service that we are providing. We are also working on strengthening the legal and regulatory frameworks that exist. We're also trying to apply trust anchors, which I have also mentioned, the security, cybersecurity, and all whatnot, so that people will trust the system that is being deployed. And speed up even the delivery, because from the strategic roadmap, our in the next 3 to 5 years, we should have captured the entire population. And then also provide identity authentication and verification. It is very key. We usually say, collect the ID, but make sure you do what? You verify it. Verification is very key in what we are preaching. Thank you so much for the time that you have given me.
Okay, thank you very much. I believe that people are rounding up applause for you. Yeah, with the details you have given us, it's actually very difficult to stop a woman from talking when she's talking. But we hope that maybe when the questions arise again, you'll be able to give us more details about the things.
Okay.
So thank you very much for your talk. Yeah,
thank you.
We'll quickly take Alaji Ajijola now. Yeah, please, can we have your perspective?
Yes, if I may just build upon what Uche has spoken about. Really, foundational identification, as she's correctly said, is are you who you say you are? Then you look at functional identities. Are you entitled to a benefit like a passport or driver's license or even COVID-19 palliative? And then we have something called the digital ID, which really is partially the digitization of any one of the either functional or foundational IDs, but also is plus, your online footprints and activities. And there are reasons why you need to distinguish these identities, because identity itself is a relative social coordinate. It locates you socially, relative to other people and institutions. Whereas identification in of itself is a process, while the ID is a thing. And while sometimes these distinctions are not always clear, it is because there's often an overlap that we must bear in mind. But having said that, with regards to identity and access management, which often in technical parlance you just put the initials I am. It's really about in the technology space, what we call in the enterprise architecture. It's about defining and managing the roles for user access and privileges. So for people who are going to access something, some resource on the network, what access and privileges are they going to be granted, or are they even going to be denied in some cases? So the technologies of identity and management, not identity management. Again, NIMSI manages the national identity system. But when we talk of identity and management, the technologies are things like password management tools, the provisioning software, the security policies and enforcement applications, the reporting and monitoring apps that identify resources, for example, a data repository or a printer or something of that nature. So when we look at within the technology space, when we look at identity, we really have about 4 or so, interrelated pillars. One is the administration of identity, but also we have now, as I think Uche had clearly stated, it's about authentication. So it's not just about having the identity, but confirming, or the identity card. It's about confirming that it is still legitimate, it hasn't expired. And then with that identity, are you now authorized? So for example, are you authorized to drive? Are you authorized to have a passport and therefore travel? And then of course, the management aspect, which Uche also touched on, is the auditing, to make sure that the right things were done when they were supposed to be done. Now, when we go back to identity and access management, I also want us, because we're talking about in a developing economy, let's look at the market. What are the opportunities for members, opportunities for you and I? Well, there are a whole set of provisioning issues we can look at. Password management, directory services. This is how to manage access to different kinds of resources. And again, advanced authentication, single sign-on, and then audit compliance, which all tie into the governance issues, as Uche has mentioned. Now, unfortunately, I don't have any immediate statistics for the Nigerian market for identity access and management, because it's still a relatively young market. But at least by 2022, the global market is expected to hit about $24 billion US. And of course, that means Africa will have some relatively small portion of it. But again, a small portion of $24 billion, that's B as in billion, is still something to think about. Now, in our own environment, in this developing economy environment, we do face a few challenges. Obviously, identity access management is used far less here than in advanced countries. But having said that, when you look at, again, what Uche had talked about, digitization in process, that shifting of mindset, it means that we're likely going to catch up very quickly. It's already started. It's not a thing. It's not about it's going to happen. It's already started. It's already advanced, which means the opportunities are there. So where do we start? Well, we need time. This thing is not going to happen overnight. But that time also gives us an opportunity to start to educate ourselves and our markets, so that we can educate the market, the people, on the need for these things. For example, our handsets that we carry, at the end of the day, we now have handsets that can recognize fingerprints, face. This is going to become increasingly common. So as individuals, as corporate organizations, as members of NCS, what can we do basically to have an advantage in the market, our nascent but rapidly growing market? Well, one, we need to start looking at offering solutions that require low IT skills and that are largely automated. You have to bear in mind that the bulk of the population is not that sophisticated yet. So we need to look at those kind of solutions that are good for, may I say, your mama lakaras. It may be a simple, like an ATM PIN code. It may be sophisticated as a facial recognition, but the idea is that it's targeted towards people, for example, who are functionally illiterate or not particularly literate. We also need to look at focusing on access management issues, such as single sign-on, so that and password management, because that is the stage we are at. So that when I go to, for example, a government website and I want some government services, I should be able to have a single sign-on that would allow me to access all those services that I may need, be it passport, be it land registry, be it tax information, etc., etc. Then I would want to caution us that as for those of us, especially who are solution providers or aspiring to be solution providers, we really need to focus on highlighting the benefits of our products and services rather than the features. Like I said, many of our clients are still not that sophisticated, so you have to keep it a bit simple and focus on what is in it for them, not simply that you have this beautiful, um, wizardry solution. Moving forward, we have to look at the reality of where we are. A lot of things are going to go to the cloud. Now, one of the nice things about the cloud is that it removes certain layers of complexities, especially when it comes to making sure users have upgrades and updates and patching and all those kind of things. But of course, the cloud model has its few drawbacks. For example, if for some reason you have no connectivity or your connectivity is poor. But having said that, really, the world is going cloud. A lot of, especially government applications, are going to be on the cloud anyway. Then we need to sell by adding to infrastructure services so that, for example, if we are already providing some basic infrastructure, maybe connectivity to people's homes, can we now bolt on some of these access management services? Because we're already in the door with service A, can we piggyback service B? And this is particularly because as a society, as a developing economy, we are still focused on rolling out additional infrastructure. Then, of course, at the beginning, you have to target the relatively high-end opportunities with higher cost benefit. So, for example, if you target those business process outsourcing opportunities as opposed to, again, last mile, mama alakara type of services. And I think it's also very important that as a potential provider of some of these solution sets, you look for niches, somewhere that you can become quite a specialist and get a good name for it. And you also have to look at what we call unconventional industry and environment. For example, we know that high performance liquid chromatography in the pharmaceutical industry is in need of access management so that not just anybody accesses these things. We know, for example, in food production, in those areas, for example, where you have to generate some kind of licensing code. So these are the kind of niches as a business person you might want to look at. Now, moving a little forward, what are the kind of trends that we are beginning to see? And some of the trends are that we're going to have to strengthen our multi-factor authentication. What is happening is that in recent times, people would have told you, look, instead of having just your username and password, you now need to use multi-factor authentication so that a one-time password may be sent to you by SMS. That was beautiful. But unfortunately, the bad actors are beginning to find ways around that. So we need to find additional mechanisms. It's like a climbing game. As you climb up, somebody is climbing up, so you have to move a little ahead. And so the good guys are actually, competing with the bad guys. Inevitably, what is happening, also another trend we see in the 2020s, is now this coming to the fore of artificial intelligence that's going to drive some of these things. Another big issue, and this is, you look towards NIDA and the Nigerian Data Protection Regulation. issues of consent and privacy are now going to be at the forefront. So you can't just collect and use data willy-nilly. You have to actually ask the owner of the data, especially when we're talking about identity data. And then one of the other areas, at least from the technology point of view, is that we now have to look at hybrid solutions, be it cloud with some kind of local storage or processing capability. And I think last but not least, in terms of the big trends, we have to appreciate that biometric authentication in particular has gone mainstream, and it will continue to go more mainstream. For example, BVN uses thumbprint, that's biometric. INEC also uses thumbprint, that's biometric. NIMSI uses thumbprint, that is biometric. But also INEC, NIMSI, and a few others, they have the capability to use other biometrics, for example, face. But we are also seeing that a new generation of biometrics, voice, and also iris are now coming to the fore. So these things are going to get stronger and stronger, and we have to look at where will the opportunities be for us to either provide services relating to this, to be part of the value chain, to hone our expertise. So in beginning to close, identity and access management will continue to grow in scale and scope. So as members of NCS, if you want to invest your time and energy in something, typically it is advisable to invest it in a sector that is growing, not a sector that has plateaued, not a sector that is dropping. So as an example, in days gone by, if you like music, you would have invested in vinyl records. Later, you would have invested in cassette tapes. At a point, you would have invested in CDs and DVDs. Today, we know if you invest in any of those kind of things, well, arguably you're wasting your time. You need to invest in online music streaming platforms. That is the same thing. You invest in the sector that is growing. So identity and access management definitely is a sector that is growing. Almost done, sir. Then you will find that our cloud-based offerings are going to get easier and easier. We already use cloud. If you use Gmail, Yahoo, Hotmail, then with the coming of Internet of Things, we're going to need things like cloud to enable the scalability of access. And I really would encourage all of us to embrace cloud because it's going to be pervasive and it's going to grow. And last but not least, we have to be very innovative. We need to look at things like blockchain technology to develop new forms of digital identity management that possibly we have not even thought of. So I would urge each and every one of us really to work and do their homework on identity access management solutions, which indeed at the moment are not perfect, but they have some flexibility. They provide some governance mechanisms, and very importantly, in the world in which we are going to live, they are very scalable. They can adjust up. On that note, let me say thank you, and I appreciate the time to speak.
All right, thank you very much, Alhaji Ajijola. Yeah, we know that you give us some in-depth of it, but because of time, we actually have to quickly move to the orders. Okay, let me go to the next woman in the panelist. That is Dr. Mrs. Wumi Azan. Please, Mr. Samaila, you will take after her. Yeah. Dr. Mrs. Wumi Azan.
Good afternoon, sirs and ma'ams, and everybody here there. It's always difficult to speak after Alhaji Ajijola. I was going to say, I'm moderator, tell Oga to stop now. Good afternoon, sir. I celebrate you always, sir. Thank you for the invitation, our chair, and I really want to celebrate Abuja NCS for this wonderful time. For me, I want to start from the point of view of the fact that we need to first understand that for us to need what Oga has termed as IAM, identity and access management, we need to understand that there is need to avoid chaos. And the chaos here is about identity, which is, in a summary, it lets us see that NIMSI has something, immigration does, banks have, and all of that and all of that. So already we are in that chaos as a country, as an economy. But I really think that we need to begin to see a way to manage this chaos. And that is why we need to deliberately, and I'm happy when I was listening to Uche, Madam Uche from NIMSI, I was saying, oh, great things that we know NIMSI is doing. Maybe for our good information, it's good that she told us all of those. But as IT people, what is our interest in this topic? And I really want to look at the fact that two things we need to deliberately identify. There is the issue of identity authentication, and then the authorization of either individuals or groups. And so those two areas are key points that we can begin to leverage on, like Onkwagijola already mentioned to us. But very fast, I want to look at what are the key issues of roles that we can begin to stress. And the number one on my list is about processes, and then the policies. I think I'm going to leave it at those two, processes and then the policies. The processes is where probably many of our colleagues in software will be very interested in, to look at what is it. I'm happy that Onkwagijola mentioned the Akara persons. That means he's looking at it at the grassroots, which is very important. And saying that this is very new in our economy gives us a leverage to take advantage on. And what I'm looking at is hearing Madam Uche speak on what NIMSI was doing, and then what we understand from identity and access management. The question to all of us is, who is this who? I have my NIMSI card, which I expected that having that card, I should be able to use it for my ATM to withdraw as an ATM card. But till now, it is not doing that. Banks are not linking that up. So that is a big challenge for us as industry players. And then there must be an advocacy, and I'm happy to see our national president online. There must be an advocacy. You see, a lot of times we can discuss these things and it's for our good, just like it's an hangout, but we must take proactive steps to become an advocate for the merging of this data. Onkwa just told us that we need to begin to see beyond the thumbprints, to see the eyeballs, to see the other facials and other things that can give authenticity. And the truth of the matter is that everybody should be tired of the chaos we have now, because we are beginning to have challenge of even memorizing a lot of software, of our passwords. And why? That is why you go to different networks, you have forgotten password. And they give us this option, forgot password, they go to your email again, they do. So what if somebody is actually hacking into my email? And then because I said I've forgotten password, it gives me a new opportunity to redo the password, and the person has hacked into your account. So security issue is already breached. And that is why at this point, I'm good enough. I'm very grateful that they've merged NIMSI with our ministry, which is Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy. What that is saying, I'm believing that NCS will take an advocacy to the Honorable Minister. Now that the players are together, we could begin to see how we can talk about this, because the truth of the matter is that NIMSI can continue looking at this data capturing without Nigerians getting interested. There's something about data integration. With the data they already have, can we begin to take pragmatic steps, NCS, CPN, all of the techies, and begin to see a way to make this thing actionable? In other words, you are saying to those that they already have, let's prove to Nigeria why this is important. They need an identity. My identity in NIMSI, for instance, can I use it as my ATM card or my ATM PIN? Can I use the same? Can there be that merger so that when I go anywhere, either I want to take passport or I want to take anything, the same number ID is what is being used for me? That's been a cry for the last 4 or 5 years. I remember Professor Sibajo had led a lot of team or committee looking at this policy convergence. I have spoken about it on so many of the e-government platforms. Today, we know that Galaxy Backbone is the host of the server. I'm not sure that the data or the information that NIMSI has as of today is on that network. Again, we are not together. That's my point. And if we want to really move it forward, we need to be deliberate. We need to become very aggressive about it. Let's take it one case per the other. I put here, I said there is a need for us to have a dedicated network that is of appliances. If we want to go by the data rack that is in Galaxy, let's go through that. If you want to go through May 1 has a data set. Let's go through May 1. In other words, let's combine this hybrid idea of the government and the organized private sector, which May 1 is already driving, and then see how to make this happen in the next 1 year, for instance, so that people will take a realistic belief in what NIMSI stands for and what every other organization stands for. As I'm rounding up, because I know they are quite, Ogafon is still waiting. There is this for us to audit who is doing what. Audit what is meaning to talk about what I put here as documenting activities. You see, in Nigeria, if you ask me, I've been hearing about NIMSI, I have done mine, but listening to Madam Uche today, you can imagine the long way gap of understanding what NIMSI actually stands for. And if it is like that to us as IT techies, you can imagine what it means to the woman in the grassroots who really need to do the same authentication, but they are not buying into it. So the advocacy from us as NCS should be in different stages. I know we have just 10 minutes. I would have loved to stage different things, but I can pass it across to us. Other now, can we take an advocacy of awareness? Advocacy about who does what, who is doing what. If, for instance, I'm going to tell you this, when I was doing my PhD in the UK, all they require from me from the university, and that's one of the things I know IFE does, is the ID of my IP of my system. And that is all that I needed for registration as a student. And immediately you enter, you are traced for many things. If there is something you are doing on your system or through the network that is against my authentication rights, I am removed immediately, or you are given a warning, and then they give you an opportunity of 1 or 2 more trials. If you don't desist, you are removed from that network. Again, if we don't begin to materialize such things, Nigerians and banks and immigration and the rest of them, medicals, they will not appreciate NIMSI to see a convergence. We must take a small pilot, even if it's 10 million of all the data you have captured. Let's test it. Then match them to their BVN, match them to their airport or immigration details, match them to this and match them to that, and then let them go with that card to hospitals. I was sick at a time. Immediately I entered a pharmaceutical shop and I mentioned my name. The lady gave me my profile. And so you are in Success University. I say, yes. So in other words, I can't just walk into a chemist and buy drugs. All your information is everywhere. We all know all of these details, but we must articulate a plan so that, you see, one thing I've noticed in Nigeria is that if you don't take the step and demonstrate things, policies are not even, the government doesn't even understand what we are talking about. That's the truth. We talk the grammar, we meet with them, we do policy documents, but the truth is that they don't really understand it until we demonstrate it. NCS, I want to take it as a challenge. I'm happy that President is here. My chairman is on ground. Please, can we demonstrate, even if it's 1 million Nigerians, let's take the identity through NIMSI, now that NIMSI is with us, and just juxtapose across, and let's see what happens. Finally, I will say to us that for IT people, we cannot do the software alone. You need the security entities to come on board. It's a multidisciplinary thing that must come together. We need the human resource department of every institution to join you in that partnership. And of course, every relevant institutions and departments. And I think on that note, identity, or what I call the I am by Uncle Agishola, which is the acronym, will become a reality for our developing economies. Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much for the in-depth thought and even the experience you have outside the country with it, which is actually desirable for the country. So without wasting much time, because our time is so, we have spent so much time, let's quickly go to Mr. Remi Afon, the president of Shisha. It's been represented by Mr. Samaila. Yeah, you have the floor now.
Hello, Mr. Shagun, and thanks for having me on this Hangouts. Hi, everybody. Unfortunately, I have to express Mr. Remi's apologies for not being able to be here. As you can imagine, he had other pressing issues to attend to, but I'll do my best to fill his very big shoes. Speaking on this topic of identity and access management, I will take us just a bit back before then to talk about data. We're talking about developing countries and what we can do to improve them, and we can't do that without data. And it's not just data, it's accurate data. So for instance, if you're talking about the budget for the country, you need to know how many people are in the country, how many people are in each state, how much are you budgeting per state, per government entity, what are they handling, and things like that. This now brings in the demographics. If you're not talking about census, for instance, because of the accurate data you have, you can assume or estimate how many people are in the country. So you now know, you can plan around that. It's also important for us to have a centralized database in the country. Based on what I've heard from Madam Uche, we can see that NIMSI is putting in efforts towards that through their strategic roadmap, and it was actually interesting to find out some things on that. I hope I can find more information online on that roadmap. But yeah, we can see that there's actual need for centralized database because, like Dr. Wumi also mentioned, you should be able to go somewhere with your NIMSI card, for instance, and open a bank account with just that card. Or, I mean, we use BVN for that now anyways. Or you could go to get your driver's license with just that card. You don't need to go and put in your details again in another place. This also prevents issues like duplication of data. It also prevents excess data collection, where people are collecting what they don't need to collect, or when you are giving it out to too many people, thereby increasing the risk of data theft and identity theft as well. And also, I'm going to again support something that Dr. Wumi said. We need to show citizens the value of their data and their identity. If there's a pilot test on a project that shows these are the benefits of this, people will be more likely to key into it. From what Madam Uche said, only 42 million Nigerians out of an estimated 200 million. So I've registered an NIMSI, and that's quite low. And this project has been on for a couple of years. So it shows that perhaps people do not understand the relevance or the importance or the benefits to what this identity could hold in the developing country like Nigeria. I also need to add that so now I'm moving from just the identity, just the benefits of an identity. I'm talking about in general identity and access management. We need to create room for cybersecurity, as Madam Uche talked about. Security by design is a very important thing to note, because if you get the right tools, you employ the right people and you do everything, but you don't put in the right processes or you don't put in the right infrastructure, the whole thing might just come down crashing, right? And so it's important to bear cybersecurity best practices in mind, and also look out for employees. So those who will be the regulators, those who will be managing the data, and those who will be handling the identity management process need to know about cybersecurity awareness so that they do not put those data that they hold at risk because of maybe carelessness or slip-ups or ignorance. Also, I would just like to point out one issue that should be looked at or looked into in this kind of discussion: the issue around a central point of failure. So as there's infrastructure being built, what's being done about redundancy, about backups, and things like that, so that we do not fall victim of a single point of failure. Just to add, based on the current issues in the country around the NSAS movement, you can see the importance of something like a criminal database where people that have been convicted or have been known to commit crimes in the past do not get recruited into the police force or any other security or law enforcement agency in the future. So these are some of the benefits of a centralized database of his right database and the uses or some of the benefits it can hold to the country as a whole. And I strongly believe that these uses of data and identity would take us to the next level in Nigeria, because without data, you can't plan and you can't really achieve as much as you would. That will be all for now.
Oh, okay, thank you very much. Very snappy. Yeah, it shows that youth is talking. Because we usually talk everything sharp, sharp, and make sense out of it. So thank you very much for this. And from all, we have seen the update. We have heard the update from the NIMSI, the steps that they have taken, and Alhaji Ajijola talked about the security and other ways to have the identity, that's facial recognition, iris, and all sorts like that. Yeah. Then Mrs. Fumi Hassan was able to talk about convergence, that we need to collaborate and put everything together, as well as the last speaker. Yeah, so thank you very much for your thought on it. We should be going to question and answer session now, but I see that the national president of NCS has joined. Please, can we take your remarks, sir, on this topic? Professor Additional Solia. All right. I don't know if he's having network problem. Okay, it's out. Okay, let me take Mr. Jide Awe. Is he in back? Okay. All right. Professor Sodia, if you can, you have the floor, sir. All right. One of the comments, let me just take one of the comments that somebody sent as a seasoned cybersecurity professional. I believe we should extend this presentation to the general public and business sector. Let me know how I can assist. And okay, you mentioned his name. I am I'm a professor of cybersecurity and cyber forensic in the US, but own a tech company in Nigeria too. So thank you for your offer. I will see how we can reach out to you. And I think this message is going to NIMSI, that you need to do more awareness for the public, what you are doing. We have heard a lot of things that you have done and what you are still doing, but there's need for public awareness on this. Then again, I didn't know, maybe I take the issue of the security when you were talking. Because some of us are actually security conscious when it comes to any matter. Even where you are living, just look around what is happening and also the security of the data that we have, because even in the history of cyber attack, I think 2020, during this lockdown, has recorded a lot of cyber attack in even big organizations like that, even the some social media accounts of highly placed people who are hacked and all sorts like that. Do, do we know from this question is directed to Mrs. Uche, yeah, about the date identity of Nigeria. Yeah, how secure is this, and so that it won't be vulnerable, and it won't be like one time we just hear that, oh, the identity of Nigerians is being displayed somewhere, or it's in the black market selling or something like that. So I think you can give your thoughts on this, Mrs. Uche Chibo. You can unmute yourself.
Thank you to everyone that has presented. Thank you to all the panelists for all your contributions. I took a lot of notes from your comments and your contributions. I'll start with maybe addressing some of the comments from Madam Wumi, and then I can go into the specific question that you asked. Yes, we find ourselves in an identity landscape that is fragmented. A lot of people are doing the same identity data capture, and we've been spending quite a lot of money. We're just duplicating a lot of the identity services. And that's why I said that the federal government of Nigeria in 2018 then took a new approach by developing a strategic roadmap that is now making sure that we all work together as an ecosystem. We all converge, we all share infrastructure, we all share knowledge, and share the services, and make sure that even though there are multiple agencies, it's still one government. So we're providing citizen services, the same citizens and the same residents. So there's already a lot of traction in trying to realign and get it right as we move forward with the strategic roadmap implementation. And also, we've been doing a lot of harmonization of these disparate identity data that exist across the multiple stakeholder agencies. As we speak now, we've commenced harmonization with the BVN, Bank Verification Number. And I'm sure you also are aware of our harmonization with the Nigerian Immigration Service, with what is currently obtainable, that without your NIN, you cannot apply for a new passport or even renew a passport. So those are part of some of the works that are going on to try to make sure that we are actually establishing that this is who somebody is, and that they are really who they claim they are, and that whatever information that is held about the person in the National Identity Database is the same information that the person is also presenting or being held about the person in the Nigerian passport database. So these are some of the things that currently that are going on. And even the strategic roadmap has recognized clear-cut roles and responsibilities for all these agencies so that there are no duplication. So that has been established, and we're all working on that. Regarding your comment on the national ID card and being able to use it on the ATM, yes, the national ID card has those functions. You can actually use it on the ATM and all of that. But because using your identity card as a payment for payment services, you still have to comply with a lot of the regulatory requirements, of which CBN is the one regulating. So there is issue that you must have an issuer, which is a bank, you must have a processor, and all those details. So, but our focus right now is not really on the card. Our focus right now is on that unique identifier, because the unique identifier is what makes everybody unique in the system, is what is issued to everybody, whether you're a 1 year old or you're 100 years old. Everybody must have that unique identifier. So that's what's been our focus. And we're trying to make sure that we also collaborate and partner, especially with the Nigerian Population Commission, so that we make sure that from birth to death, we cover everybody and everybody has that unique identifier, because the birth register is like an input and the death register is the output. So we're trying to close that gap and have that linkage with the civil registration system. The same linkage we're also expecting under the roadmap to have with all these functional identities, whether it's passport, driver's license, voters register, all the other functional systems that exist. We're trying to also have that linkage with all of them. When you come to identity and access management, yes, I've listened to all the comments. I'm quite impressed with the contributions and what we're saying. From the NIMSI perspective, yes, access management is very key. But from our perspective, especially when it comes to the human angle, because we are registering the people, yes, our national identity database, it can stand as the central repository for the identities of all the people within the country. about our authentication and verification platform that we are currently using to make sure that people are authenticated. Those identity tokens that we issue, whether it's the NIN, the unique ID, or the card, can be authenticated anytime, anywhere. And then people have the proper authorization to access the database, whether to confirm identity, to assert the identity, and all of that. So all of that is also rests under those 4 pillars of the IAM that we're talking about: central repository, user management, authentication, and authorization. And then I know that my big uncle Ajijola dealt a lot on the technology angle of it when he was talking about the administration, the authentication management, which is the auditing, and also the authorization. So I will not go so deep into it. But if we look at it also from the perspective of NIMC, the unique ID that we are also offering is going to be used to grant you access and facilitate even access to all of those services that as a human being, you're supposed to be entitled to, or you're supposed to leverage on. Whether you're talking about financial services access, whether you're talking about health coverage access, education, employment, you need a unique ID to be able to have access to all of these services. Then regarding the specific question that was asked on what NIMC is doing to make sure that they are registering only Nigerian citizens, I want to encourage you that you should read the NIMC Act, because the law that set up NIMC has mandated us to register citizens and legal residents, those who are legally resident in Nigeria. So our registration is not only for citizens. We register citizens and legal residents, because Nigerians are also legally resident in other countries, and they're also living there, and they have to participate, and they have to have in the country that they are residing. So the law is not only to register citizens, but for citizens and legal residents. In terms of making sure that those people who are registering also indicate that their nationality is Nigeria, we work with the Nigerian Immigration Services, because though that's their mandate. Our mandate it does not extend into identifying who is a Nigerian or not, but we collaborate and partner with Nigerian Immigration Services. They provide that for us within our enrollment centers. When people come in, they see you, and they can just by looking at people sometimes be able to say, this person doesn't look like a Nigerian, and they make sure that the form they fill and the information they are providing, they are putting that their nationality within there. And in cases where we've identified people that we felt were not, we still also push it to them for them to do all that adjudication and all the processes involved and establish those nationality. So that's what we do in terms of that. And then for the identity, I mentioned that we have almost everybody is our stakeholder in the identity. You and I, we're all stakeholders, whether it's the government agencies, the MDAs, the private sector organization, we're all stakeholders. So I want to employ everyone to join hands in helping us also in terms of the publicity and awareness. Yes, we know that there's a gap there. There's a lot that needs to be done, especially in sensitizing, in educating people, in making sure the information, people understand the value of identity, those inherent benefits that are there within the identity sector. We will keep doing our best to make sure that we get everybody on board, get educated and informed. And we also count on your support that as our own ambassadors and partners in the identity sector, that you also do what is within your power to help us to spread that information. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, madam. The last question, I think you didn't see that. Somebody asked that why is the NIMC card expiring? That's why would the card expire when it is not an international passport?
Okay, thank you so much for that question. Well, I'm at the inception, at the stage of conceptualizing the national ID card, because the card is just not only an identity card, there are so many other functions that it serves. Which one of them is the payment services. So one of the regulations for you to have a payment service or a payment applet on a card, it requires that for a particular period of time, that payment applet must have an expiration. And then also coupled with the fact that within the card that we are issuing, there's also the public key infrastructure, the cryptography secure document always also has an expiry date. And because your information, your biometrics, your face, and all of those things can also change over time, it also enables us to have an opportunity for you to come and update your biometric information that we have of you. So that's why we have that expiration. Ideally, if we're supposed to have worked with the CBN regulation, the card is supposed to be expiring after 3 years, but we were given a waiver because it's an identity card to extend it to 5 years. The interesting thing about it is that we've also had discussion with our new minister in the ministry that we have been moved into, and we are currently going back to also review that expiration to see if it can be extended beyond the 5 years. But it's just for the fact that there's a payment applet on it, and it's a secure document based on the cryptography, and we need you to update your biometric information. That's why that expiration is there. But we're going back to take a look at it again and see if we can extend it beyond the 5 years.
Oh, that's fine. Thank you very much for the thoughts and the response to the question. We don't have much questions like that, but we're just 1 minute above our planned time now. Well, let me just give opportunity to our panelists again to give the last shot, the parting shot on the topic before we close. Yeah, because we don't have any questions direct to us, but maybe any question that she has addressed, maybe you want to say something about it. Just give us a parting shot. Mrs. Williams. Okay.
Well, mine is not really a question any longer, but to say thank you to Madam Uche for being so explicit. And as you have agreed with us, we just hope that the advocacy will continue. And I hope NIFC is open to a whole lot of partnerships. I will still emphasize again that if we don't take a pragmatic step to let people see how relevant some of these things are to them, then we will continue the way we've been doing it. And one of the approaches that I think the new roadmap and strategy could help is for us to begin to build a kind of what I call the innovation cluster. NCS is a key element, NGOs are elements, organized private sector, and then the academia. You know, a lot of times we neglect the academia in most of the discussion, where they can come as your consultants, but there is a way that you can capture the academia that is different from individuals who serve, you know, in this kind of portfolios. So I really hope that this conversation will continue, maybe with Mrs. Uche, if I have your contact, but really we just need to do more to make our IT professionals more relevant to all of the discussions that is going on around the country. We are happy that through NCS, we are able to discuss this at this platform. But like I saw in the chat room, somebody is saying this should be a national discussion, something that the public should have more privilege to. Maybe the NCS National will foster such discussion. But I think for us in Abuja, it's a welcome techie hangout, and I'm really pleased to be a part of this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, once again, and thank you for the NCS powerful team. I celebrate all of you every time, and we are very proud of you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, Ma. We always appreciate your support also. Yeah, Mr. Samaila.
Well, I also don't have any questions, to be honest. And just like Dr. Wumi did, I really appreciate Madam Uche for taking her time to explain some things, because, you know, not everything is easy to find out in Nigeria, but at least she's been very honest and straightforward about her answers. I would just like to say that I think the 10 years expiration is feasible, considering that our international passports also have that option, that duration. So I hope that they achieve their goal in trying to increase the duration, because going to the offices to register this number of people in Nigeria every 5 years might be cumbersome and stressful to a lot of people. But that being said, I think just to hammer on something she also mentioned, in strategic roadmap, there's room for private sector involvement. So I think this being an NCS gathering, there are a lot of people here that have their own private consultancies and IT companies. So I think this is something you should really look into, because if they are going to achieve their goal of registering majority of Nigerians within the next 3 to 5 years, that private sector involvement will be very key in the success of these projects. So thanks again for having me on this event. I'm really glad to be here.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, somebody said it's an excellent discussion panelist. You've done a great job. A special thanks to Madam Uche. So thank you, everybody. Mr. Professor Sodia tried a lot to join. I could see him join, go out again. I think it's a network issue, maybe where he is. He's supposed to actually say welcome to us and also give a talk from the national secretariat. But in his absence, I could see the immediate past chairman of Abuja chapter is here, Mr. Rex Abito. Can you just say hi to us? Mr. Rex.
Hello.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I must. Is it just to say hi? Okay. Hi to everyone. Well, I will say thank you to all the panelists. The topic is interesting, and I think we've done justice to it. The only thing I would like to add, I've seen a couple of questions on the chat platform, and I think a lot of us are equally saying there must be a proper handshake between NIMSI and key stakeholders. From our own part, what we've been doing is we've been engaging NIMSI, and we've equally agreed to work with NIMSI on a couple of initiatives that they are embarking on. I'm sure at the last conference, we had the DG himself touching on different areas, what they are doing, what they have been doing, and what they plan to do, including how we can work together. And I must say that we are working with them, we are collaborating with them. They have our support, and we'll continue to equally support them. On the data protection law, we sent in a recommendation, and I think that is equally taken care of. So above it all, the conversation is good. We need to keep it alive. We need to keep the conversation going. And I'll just say, well done, Mr. Chairman and the executive and every participant. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. IPC. He is also the chairman conferences of the NCS National Board. Yeah, I could see Professor Sodia in back. Okay, thank God we are able to have you now. Can you?
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let me first appreciate the chairman, NCS Abuja State Chapter. I also want to appreciate the next.
Prof, maybe you should put down this curtain. The light rays is too much.
Members that are at this meeting, Tabitogun speaking. I met him giving some comments. I also want to appreciate the speakers from Engineer Assis, represented by, I think I saw that it was one woman that represented him. I would have loved our conference, and then I think that was the last time I saw him. also want to appreciate the presence and participation of all other speakers. One gentleman, Dr. Wumi Hassan, our own, we appreciate your constant support to NCS Abuja chapter. My wonderful brother, Alhaji Abdul Hakim Ajijola, we appreciate you for your constant support too. Well, I don't know whether Mr. Ajijola is still there. I just want to use this opportunity to also remind him of the assignment society also gave him. Maybe if he's not NCS Abuja, to also help me to remind him. We are eagerly waiting for that, for the completion of that assignment. I also want to thank and appreciate all other ESCO members of NCS Abuja. I also want to thank and appreciate the presence of all other participants. NCS Abuja chapter is really, really very important to us. It's like NCS Abuja chapter is actually the headquarters of all NCS chapters. This program, the first edition, I think I actually attended physically, and I was there when you had the session at I think around research center in Abuja. I was actually there. With the pandemic ravaging the whole world now, and I think that is why this second edition was converted to be online. But we hope that COVID-19 is going to go very soon, and we'll be able to continue to do our things as we used to do. Well, the topic of this event, Techies Hangout, is very relevant, and of course, I want to see it as an extension of some of the things we discussed during the conference, and it's actually in line with some topics that are actually bothering this nation, the issue of identity management. I'm very sure that our speakers this afternoon, I also listened carefully to Madame Mouche, who actually represented the DG. Madame Mouche, kindly extend our appreciation and regards to the DG. Tell him the president of NCS, he is a member, and he has actually been supporting the core of NIPSI, that NCS will always be there to provide necessary support for the activities of NIPSI. There is something the DG NIPSI has said we should go and do, and help me to add it together. And very soon it's going to get it from us because we have decided that we are going to collaborate with NIPSI. Dr. Mrs. Hassan, I didn't listen to your presentation, but I know that you are always up to the task. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to waste our time. I know we have spent a lot of time trying to ensure that we have a successful event. I want to assure all my members in Abuja chapter of NCS that they are indeed our image. NCS Abuja chapter is indeed our image. And all the members have been wonderful ambassadors of Nigerian Computer Society. We appreciate you all. During the last conference, NCS Urban chapter, out of all the 36 chapters that we have, and that shows that the NCS chapter is really very, very vibrant, and we want to charge you to continue to do more. And this program, this is the second edition. We hope to see more of that Computer Society in Abuja. Let me say something that
All right, I think we lost this connection.
Well, I'm back. Let me just.
Oh, okay.
Round up. I hope you are listening to me. You can hear me.
Yes, maybe you can take your video off. Yeah.
Okay. I think. Hello, everyone. The chairman, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Yes. Oh, the network is not on the side. Yeah, okay. As we are closing, because of the time that is fast spent, let me call on the vice chairman to give the vote of thanks, and so that we'll close. Vice chairman, Miriam Chukwuemeka. Vice chairman. We can't hear you well. All right. Okay.
Yes, your
President, are
volume
you
is
back?
low. You need to increase. You need to speak loud, or you check your volume.
All right. President, are you back? Can you quickly round off what you are saying? All right. I think the vice chairman is having issue with the audio also. So let me thank every one of us that has participated in this, and most importantly, our panelists, Mrs. Uche Jigo, Deputy General Manager and Senior Special Assistant to the DG NIMSI. Thank you very much for the in-depth information you have given us. And Mr. Samaila Baku is representing Mr. Remia Fong. Thank you also for your thought. Then Dr. Mrs. Wumi Hassan, we appreciate you also for your thought and being frank in your submissions. And Elijah Jijola, can we say Baba Alakara now? I was expecting to hear Alakara today, we heard it. So that's nice because you usually go in depth to go to the grassroots to give examples of those that the information technology should reach. So we thank you for your thought, and our participants, thank you very much for taking time to participate in this Tech Hangout. We hope to have more of it, as I said in my welcome address, that we hope to have it 6 times this year, but because of the pandemic. So we're still going to see every two months, we're supposed to have it. So we're still going to have another one in December, possibly, or if there are other activities. So we move it to January when we have the next edition. But information will reach us, like we have sent information to us through our various platforms. So thank you very much for taking your time to participate in this. I will hope that we'll have more of you in our events. Our panelists, please, thank you very much. We really appreciate you, and we count on your support, further support in our engagement, as we'll be calling on you to come up on some of our programs also. Thank you very much. On this note, we're closing this event today, and with that, we take it with the national pledge. So let us take the national pledge as the closing prayer. I pledge to Nigeria, my country,
Pledge to Nigeria, my country, to be faithful, loyal, and honest.
serve
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 Nigeria
Nigeria
Nigeria with all my strength.
to defend the unity
and uphold her
To
honor and
defend our
glory.
unity
So
and
help
uphold our
me.
honor and glory. So help me God.
so help us all. Thank you very much.
Marie, so help me
Thank
God.
you.
Thank you for having us. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Shagun. Take care.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right.